My name is Lucas, 35, a software engineer from Austin, Texas. I've spent most of my life working hard, dreaming of a stable life with a loving wife and, someday, kids. My wife, Sarah, 33, is a marketing manager with an electric smile that lights up any room. We've been married for 7 years, and up until last week, I thought I was living the dream. And then there's Jason, my best friend since high school. Jason, 35 like me, is a firefighter, brave, selfless, and the kind of guy people admire. I always thought he had my back, and I trusted him with my life. Hell, I trusted him with my wife. It all started when Sarah told me she had to work late for the 3rd time that week. Her excuse sounded shaky, but I didn't question it. I trusted her. But then I noticed little things, like how she started hiding her phone, laughing at texts she wouldn't show me, and dressing up a bit more than usual for work meetings. I wanted to believe the best, but something in my gut felt off. The moment that changed everything came on a Thursday evening. I was supposed to be at a company networking event, but it got cancelled last minute. I didn't tell Sarah because I wanted to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Jason's truck parked in front of our house. At first, I thought maybe he'd stopped by to hang out, but something felt wrong. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as the worst-case scenario started forming in my mind. Quietly, I walked to the front door, and that's when I noticed it was unlocked. My heart pounded in my chest as I pushed it open and stepped inside. The sound of laughter echoed from upstairs, Sarah's unmistakable giggle mixed with Jason's deeper chuckle. I don't know what possessed me to move quietly, but I did. I climbed the stairs one at a time, my heartbeat growing louder with each step. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar, and through the crack, I saw them, Sarah and Jason, tangled in the sheets of the bed we shared, their laughter now replaced by moans that made my stomach churn. I stood frozen, my mind reeling. Every memory of our marriage flashed before my eyes. The first time I saw Sarah in her wedding dress, the nights we spent dreaming about our future, the vacations, the laughter, the love. It all felt like a sick joke now. But then, something snapped in me. I pushed the door open with a force that made it slam against the wall. "What the hell is this?" I roared, my voice shaking with rage. The two of them jumped, their faces pale with shock. Jason scrambled off the bed, grabbing his clothes, while Sarah sat there, clutching the sheets to her chest. "Lucas, I can explain," Sarah stammered, tears welling up in her eyes. "Explain? You're going to explain this?" I gestured wildly at the bed, my voice dripping with venom. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around with my best friend." Jason, of course, tried to step in. "Lucas, man, I didn't mean for this to happen." "Shut up," I barked, cutting him off. "You didn't mean for this to happen? You're in my house, in my bed, with my wife, and you didn't mean for this to happen?" The sheer audacity of his words made me want to punch him right there, but I held back. "Barely." Sarah started crying, begging me to calm down, but her tears only fueled my anger. "Calm down? You expect me to calm down after this?" I turned to Jason, who was now fully dressed but looking like a deer caught in headlights. "Get out, now." He hesitated, probably thinking he could salvage the situation, but one look at my face must have told him otherwise. He grabbed his shoes and bolted, leaving Sarah and me alone in the wreckage of what used to be our marriage. I stared at her, my chest heaving with anger and betrayal. "Why?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why him? Why this?" She sobbed harder, choking out half-baked excuses about feeling lonely and neglected, about how Jason was there for her when I wasn't. Each word was like a knife to the chest. "Do you even realize what you've done?" I asked, my voice icy now. "You didn't just destroy our marriage. You destroyed my trust in both of you. I'll never be able to look at either of you the same way again." Sarah begged me to forgive her, swearing it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. But I couldn't even look at her. I grabbed my car keys and walked out, leaving her crying on the bedroom floor. As I sat in my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, I realized two things. First, the life I thought I had was a lie. And second, I wasn't going to let this betrayal go unanswered. Little did Sarah and Jason know, I wasn't just going to walk away. I had a plan brewing, a plan that would make them regret every moment they spent betraying me. I spent that night in a cheap motel, lying on the stiff mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Sleep was out of the question. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the scene over and over again. Sarah's betrayal, Jason's betrayal. Every laugh, every smile, every toast we'd shared together now felt like a cruel joke. At 3 a.m., I decided I needed answers. I couldn't move on until I knew why. Not just Sarah's half-baked excuse about feeling neglected, the real reason. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through her social media accounts, looking for anything that could help me make sense of this nightmare. But then, I stumbled on something I hadn't expected: an old message thread between Jason and me from 2 years ago. It was the night I introduced Sarah to Jason. I'd forgotten all about it until that moment, but seeing it again sent a chill down my spine. "You've got a good one, man," Jason had texted me that night. "She's gorgeous, smart, and funny. Don't mess this up." At the time, I thought he was just being a good friend. But now, with everything that had happened, those words felt off, like they were hiding something. I didn't sleep at all that night. Instead, I pieced together every moment, every interaction between Jason and Sarah over the years. The way he always seemed to be around her at parties. The private jokes they shared that I wasn't part of. The time he gave her a birthday gift, some expensive bracelet that he said was no big deal. It hit me like a freight train. This wasn't some one-time fling. This had been going on for years. By morning, I was back at the house. I wasn't ready to talk to Sarah yet, but I needed more evidence. I needed to confirm my suspicions. She was in the shower when I got there, and her phone was on the nightstand. My hand shook as I picked it up and unlocked it. The first thing I saw was a text message thread with Jason, and it confirmed everything. "Jason, last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. Sarah, me too. I miss you already." My heart pounded as I scrolled up. The messages went back months: flirty texts, plans to meet up, and even pictures that made my stomach churn. But the worst was yet to come. I opened her hidden photo album, and what I found made my blood boil. There were pictures of them together at places I recognized: our favorite hiking spot, the restaurant where I proposed, even the hotel we stayed at on our anniversary. But then, there was one picture that stopped me cold. It was Sarah and Jason sitting on a couch, smiling. And there, sitting between them, was a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, who looked exactly like Jason. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. Could this child be? No, it couldn't be. But as I scrolled through more pictures, it became clear. There were photos of Sarah holding the boy as a baby, photos of her at what looked like a hospital after giving birth. And then I saw it: a text from Jason to Sarah, dated 5 years ago. "Jason, do you think Lucas suspects?" Sarah, "No. He doesn't have a clue. As far as he knows, it's his kid." The world tilted. I stumbled back, barely able to process what I was reading. His kid? That boy wasn't just Jason's son. He was the son I thought was mine. The son I'd been saving for, planning a future for. I heard the shower turn off and Sarah's voice calling my name. I shoved the phone back on the nightstand and bolted out of the room, my heart hammering in my chest. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing. The betrayal wasn't just between Sarah and Jason. It was deeper, more twisted. I'd been living a lie for 5 years. And that's when the rage truly set in. It wasn't enough for me to confront them. I wasn't going to let them walk away from this unscathed. If they thought they could betray me and destroy my life without consequences, they had another thing coming. That's when my plan started to take shape. But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about exposing the truth and making sure they paid for every lie, every secret, every moment they stole from me. As I drove away from the house, one thought burned in my mind: they thought they could play me. Now it's my turn to play them. The days after my discovery were a blur of rage, heartbreak, and calculation. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't look at anyone without feeling like the walls were closing in on me. But I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to be some passive victim in their little soap opera. If Sarah and Jason thought they could destroy my life and get away with it, they had underestimated me. I spent hours in front of my laptop, researching, planning, and preparing. My background in software engineering gave me an edge. I was used to analyzing complex systems and finding vulnerabilities. That's exactly what I did now, except the system I was dissecting wasn't a program. It was their lives. The first step in my plan was gathering more evidence. I needed to know everything: how long they had been cheating, where they met up, and how they kept this secret from me for so long. I started by installing a tracking app on Sarah's phone. It synced her messages, call logs, and GPS data straight to my computer. Within 24 hours, I had access to her entire digital life. The texts were revolting. Jason called her baby, love, and even his soulmate. Sarah, in turn, gushed about how much she missed him and how hard it was to pretend everything was normal around me. They mocked me, called me clueless, and laughed about how I never suspected a thing. Each message was a fresh wound, but I swallowed the pain and kept reading. Then, I found their next meeting spot. They had planned to meet at a boutique hotel just outside the city the following weekend. Perfect. But my revenge wouldn't just be limited to exposing their affair. Oh no, that would be too simple. I wanted to dismantle their lives piece by piece, the way they had dismantled mine. Step 1: Jason's job. Jason's reputation as a firefighter was everything to him. He loved being seen as a hero, someone brave, selfless, and trustworthy. I decided to start there. I dug into his records, looking for anything that could tarnish his image. It didn't take long to find something. A few years back, Jason had been reprimanded for drinking on the job. It was a minor incident, swept under the rug by his captain, but I managed to obtain the report through a public records request. I also found evidence that he'd been using sick days to meet up with Sarah. Next, I created an anonymous email account and sent everything I had to the fire department's internal affairs division. I framed it as a concerned citizen reporting unethical behavior. I knew this would trigger an investigation, and if they dug deep enough, they'd find even more dirt. Step 2: Sarah's career. Sarah prided herself on her career as a marketing manager. She loved the recognition, the awards, the high-profile campaigns. But I knew her company had a strict morality clause in their contracts. Any scandalous behavior could result in termination. I compiled all the text messages, photos, and hotel bookings I'd found and crafted a professional-looking email. I posed as a whistleblower from within her company and sent the email to her boss, along with the evidence. But I wasn't done with Sarah yet. I knew she had a big presentation coming up, a pitch to a major client that could make or break her career. Using the tracking app, I found the details of the meeting and forwarded them to her boss with a note that Sarah had been leaking confidential information to outsiders. Step 3: The public spectacle. For their planned weekend rendezvous, I had something special in mind. I booked a room at the same hotel they were meeting at, just one floor above theirs. My goal was to catch them in the act and ensure there were witnesses, plenty of witnesses. On the day of their meeting, I arrived early and set up hidden cameras in their room. I had bribed the hotel staff member to grant me access, which wasn't cheap, but it was worth it. The cameras were connected to a live stream I controlled from my phone. But I didn't stop there. I invited a few key people to the hotel: Sarah's boss, Jason's captain, and even a couple of mutual friends who had no idea what was going on. I framed it as a surprise celebration for Jason and Sarah, making sure they'd arrive just as I revealed everything. Step 4: The personal blow. As the weekend drew closer, I worked on my final touch. I drafted a letter to Sarah's parents, people I had always been close with, and included every piece of evidence I had. They had always thought the world of me, and I wanted them to know who their daughter really was. I also wrote a letter to Jason's girlfriend, who I had discovered through social media. She had no idea he was cheating on her. I included screenshots of texts, pictures, and every disgusting detail I could find. By the time Saturday rolled around, everything was set. My heart pounded with a mix of nerves and anticipation as I drove to the hotel. I knew there was no going back after this. The revenge I had planned wasn't just about exposing them, it was about taking back control of my life. When I checked into my room, I set up my laptop and checked the live stream. Sarah and Jason hadn't arrived yet, but everything was in place. The guests I had invited were already on their way, and I had arranged for the hotel staff to let them into my room when they arrived. Sitting there, waiting for the storm to unfold, I felt an odd sense of calm. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like I had the upper hand. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. I checked my watch. Any minute now, Sarah and Jason would walk into their room, oblivious to the fact that their lives were about to implode. And I would be there to make sure they felt every ounce of the pain they had caused me. The day of reckoning arrived like the storm I had carefully orchestrated. I checked into my room at the hotel 2 hours before Sarah and Jason were scheduled to meet. My heart pounded with adrenaline, but my mind was laser-focused on the plan. Everything I had put in motion over the last few weeks was about to come to a head. The first task was setting up the live stream. I had already planted hidden cameras in their room the day before, thanks to a generous bribe to one of the hotel staff members. The feed was crisp and clear, showing every corner of the room. I adjusted the angle one last time, ensuring I had a perfect view of the bed. I sent out one final batch of texts and emails. Sarah's boss, Jason's fire captain, a handful of our mutual friends, and even Sarah's parents were all given the same vague message. There's something you need to see. Meet me at the hotel at 7:00 p.m. Room 418. Once everything was set, I paced around my room, trying to keep my nerves in check. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump into the unknown. The thought of seeing their faces when everything came crashing down was the only thing keeping me grounded. The arrival, At 6:45 p.m., I received a notification on my phone. The tracking app on Sarah's phone alerted me that she had arrived at the hotel. Jason was with her. The live stream kicked on moments later, showing them entering the room together. Sarah was wearing a red dress, her go-to outfit for special occasions. Jason had his arm around her waist, grinning like he didn't have a care in the world. Finally, I muttered, my hands tightening into fists. They didn't waste any time. Within minutes, they were on the bed, laughing and kissing like they were in some cheesy romance movie. My stomach churned at the sight, but I forced myself to keep watching. This was the evidence I needed to destroy them. The guests arrive. By 7:00 p.m., the people I had invited began to trickle into my room. Sarah's boss, Mr. Langston, was the first to arrive. He looked confused, clutching his briefcase as he stepped inside. "Ethan, what's going on?" he asked, glancing around. "Just wait. You'll see," I replied, keeping my tone calm. Next came Jason's fire captain, a gruff man named Chief Daniels. He was followed by a couple of our mutual friends, Sarah's parents, and, finally, Jason's girlfriend, Amanda. Each of them wore a similar expression of confusion and curiosity. When everyone was seated, I stood in front of the group and took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady despite the chaos raging inside me. "What you're about to see is difficult, but it's something I believe you all need to know." I turned my laptop around, revealing the live stream. The room fell silent as the screen lit up with a live feed of Sarah and Jason, still tangled up in each other on the bed. Gasps filled the room. Sarah's mother covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Amanda's face turned bright red with anger. Mr. Langston leaned forward, squinting at the screen in disbelief. "What the hell is this?" Jason's fire captain demanded, his voice booming. "This," I said, my voice cold, "is my wife and my best friend. And this is the truth they've been hiding from all of us." The confrontation. I could have stopped there, but I wanted the confrontation to be as public as possible. I picked up my phone and called the hotel reception. "This is Ethan from room 418, I said. "Could you send a staff member to room 317 and let them know there's an urgent message waiting for them here?" Minutes later, the live stream showed a knock at Sarah and Jason's door. A hotel employee informed them of the message, and they quickly dressed and made their way to my room. The moment they stepped through the door, the room erupted. "Sarah," her mother screamed. "What is wrong with you?" Jason froze, his eyes darting between the laptop and the crowd of people staring at him. "Ethan, what the hell is this?" he stammered. "This," I said, stepping forward, "is your reckoning." Amanda stormed up to Jason, shoving him hard in the chest. "You cheating piece of garbage. How could you do this to me?" To him? Sarah's boss turned to her, his face a mix of anger and disgust. "This is what you've been doing during work hours? Consider yourself fired, Sarah." Chief Daniels glared at Jason, his jaw clenched. "You're finished. Do you hear me? Finished." Sarah looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. "Ethan, please, let me explain." "Explain?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Explain how you lied to my face 4 months. How you destroyed our marriage." "There's nothing to explain, Sarah. It's all here. For everyone to see." The collapse. As the shouting continued, I grabbed the stack of letters I had prepared earlier. Each one was addressed to a specific person in the room, detailing the evidence I had gathered and the consequences of their actions. I handed them out one by one, watching as each recipient's face twisted with shock and betrayal. "This is just the beginning," I said, my voice firm. "You both will pay for what you've done. Not just to me, but to everyone in this room." Sarah broke down, sobbing into her hands. Jason tried to defend himself, but no one was listening. The room was a cacophony of accusations, tears, and anger. Finally, I turned to Sarah and Jason one last time. "You made your choices," I said. "Now you'll live with the consequences." I grabbed my laptop and walked out of the room, leaving them to face the storm I had unleashed. As I stepped into the elevator, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, I was free. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. And it felt damn good. Walking out of that hotel was like stepping into a new chapter of my life. The burden I had been carrying for weeks, the pain, the betrayal, it felt lighter. But while my revenge had been served, I knew the story wasn't over. What came next was the fallout, and it was far more chaotic and satisfying than I could have imagined. Sarah's collapse. Sarah didn't just lose her husband that night, she lost her entire world. Her boss, Mr. Langston, didn't waste any time following through on his promise. By the end of the week, she was fired for unprofessional conduct. It turned out that I wasn't the only one who had noticed her disappearing during work hours. My evidence merely sealed the deal. With her income gone, Sarah was forced to move back in with her parents, who weren't exactly thrilled to have her. Her mother barely spoke to her, and her father looked at her like she was a stranger. They had always been proud of her career and her marriage, and now both were in shambles. Sarah called me multiple times, leaving tearful voicemails begging me to talk to her. She apologized over and over, claiming she had made a mistake, that she still loved me, and that we could work things out. I deleted every message without listening past the first few words. Her desperation reached new heights when she showed up at my apartment one night, drenched from the rain and clutching a box of my favorite takeout as some kind of peace offering. "Ethan, please," she begged, standing in my doorway. "I know I messed up, but I can't lose you. I'll do anything to make it right." I looked at her, the woman I had once loved, now a shadow of herself. "You already lost me, Sarah," I said coldly, "the moment you chose him over us." I closed the door in her face, leaving her sobbing in the hallway. It hurt, but it also felt liberating. Jason's downfall. Jason's life took an equally catastrophic turn. Chief Daniels wasted no time launching an investigation into Jason's behavior. While infidelity wasn't technically against the rules of the fire department, the department valued integrity and teamwork above all else. Jason's actions, once exposed, painted him as a man who couldn't be trusted. He was suspended indefinitely, pending a review. Without his job and the respect of his colleagues, Jason spiraled. Amanda, his now ex-girlfriend, had moved out of their apartment the very next day after the hotel incident. She took everything, her belongings, her dog, even the kitchenware she had bought. Jason was left in an empty apartment with nothing but his shame. Word spread quickly among our mutual friends. Jason and Sarah became the town's favorite gossip topic. People stopped inviting him to events, deleted him from group chats, and made it clear he wasn't welcome in their lives. The betrayal wasn't just about me, it was about the violation of trust within our entire circle. One day, I ran into him at the grocery store. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His once confident swagger was gone, replaced by a slouch and hollow eyes. He tried to say something, but I walked right past him without a word. The community's reaction. Our small town thrives on drama, and my calculated revenge gave people plenty to talk about. At first, I was worried about how I might be perceived. Would people think I had gone too far? Would they see me as vindictive or cruel? But as it turned out, I had nothing to worry about. Everywhere I went, people approached me with words of support. Strangers stopped me in coffee shops to shake my hand. Friends who I hadn't spoken to in years reached out to tell me they admired my strength and resolve. "You did what any of us would have wanted to do," one guy said while I was at the gym. "It takes guts to stand up for yourself like that." Even Sarah's own parents called me to apologize for her behavior. Her father admitted that he was ashamed of what she had done, and her mother thanked me for exposing the truth. The legal fallout. Despite their public humiliation, Sarah and Jason decided to test their luck by threatening legal action over the live stream. They claimed I had violated their privacy and caused emotional distress, but I had anticipated this. Before putting my plan into motion, I had consulted a lawyer to ensure everything I was doing was above board. The cameras were placed in a hotel room I had rented in my name, making it perfectly legal. As for emotional distress, well, my lawyer made it clear that any distress they felt was a direct result of their own actions. The case never made it to court. They dropped it quietly, realizing they had no leg to stand on. Moving forward, in the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, earning a promotion at the firm and gaining the respect of my colleagues. I started going to therapy, not because I felt broken, but because I wanted to ensure I never let anyone like Sarah or Jason into my life again. I even began dating again. Slowly, cautiously. One woman, MIA, stood out. She was kind, funny, and completely different from Sarah. When I told her my story, she listened without judgment and simply said, "Well, it sounds like you dodged a bullet." She was right. The final twist. A year after the incident, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. It was Sarah. She had moved to a new city, working a minimum wage job and struggling to make ends meet. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," the message read. "You didn't deserve what I did to you. I hope you're happy." I stared at the screen for a moment before deleting the message. She didn't deserve a reply. As for Jason, the last I heard, he had moved back in with his parents and was working odd jobs to make a living. He had lost everything: his career, his friends, his reputation. In the end, they both got what they deserved. And I got my life back. Revenge wasn't just sweet, it was the closure I needed to move on.